Miami, how we doing?
Hello, Marlins fans, and welcome to this edition of FOF Live, presented by About the Fans. You can check out our new FOF merch line from About the Fans, and if you're reading the ticker below, you could save 10% on your next order to support us here on Fish on First. Let me introduce everyone we have today in our panel. I'm your host, Daniel. We have Kevin, Alex Carver, Eli Sussman. We have Nate Karsmer and joining us, Marcelo DeVivo. Marcelo, first up, how you feeling? Ready to talk some fish?
Just one spring training then, man. I need the season to start already. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I was telling Marcel before we started that I think yesterday was the peak. Well, the first televised game in a while, and everything goes right offensively and pitching wise. And then we're at the point of spring where once you get past like the 15 game mark, really the only purpose is getting pitchers stretched out a little bit more. So hoping they prove me wrong, that we get other thrilling moments. But I think this is where you just start counting the days. 15 days until opening day.
15 days. We have the spring breakout game coming up very soon. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon with Carver and Marcelo. But I want to hear from Nate first. Nate, we're almost in the halfway point. We're inching closer to opening day. What have you seen so far from the Fish overall? Who has impressed you the most, and maybe some guys that are just missing the mark?
I'm going to talk about the rotation real quick. Obviously, Sandy's been lights out. Matt Meyer's been awesome, of course. Added a couple more tits on his fastball. Slider's been really good as well. Ryan Weathers has been great. He had his first start that we can actually see StatCast from, and he's been awesome as well. He pitched, was that last Thursday in Northport against the Braves, and he looked awesome. Slider looks really good. He's hoping to be a leader this year. He's going to be probably third in the rotation. Then on the other hand, you got Quantrill. Not too hot, but you don't want to overreact on him. But my biggest disappointment so far has been Edward Cabrera. Unfortunately, I saw him in person again on Friday, and man, it's just so infuriating when you look at a guy like him. He has such good stuff. Even Clayton talked about it before the game. It's something that we really haven't heard yet from a manager, at least that from my knowledge. But he mentioned pregame that it's time for Eddie. He debuted in 21. He's been in the rotation for a couple of years now. They haven't really seen what he like peak Eddie. We've seen glimpses, but we haven't seen it at sustained yet. So he went out there against the Red Sox. I think he allowed 3 homers, 2 to Trevor Story, and just really couldn't spot. It's the same issues, but the part that infuriates me the most is that it's the same issues that have been plaguing him since he got called up and since he was even in the minors. His location was off. He was walking guys. He hit, I think, 2 guys. And, of course, when he misses down the middle, it leaves the yard. So still don't want to overreact too much. He even said at postgame that he was working on his slider, the pitches that were taken deep. So don't want to overreact too much. But my focus is really on the rotation right now.
Yeah, same question to you, Kevin. I want to hear from you. Maybe some guys who are doing well and some guys who are just maybe need a little more seasoning or maybe not too high expectations on these guys so far.
Yeah, I mean, I like the comment that Brian left right there. I mean, Augustin Ramirez has been pretty fun to watch. I was actually looking at his numbers today, and he's been very patient. Like, it's like 2 strikeouts, I think 4 or 6 walks, and so many at bats. It's, you look at the batting average, it's like 188. All right. But like, he's getting on base 350, a very high OPS, good slugging. We just saw that one. And Nate, I know you got to see that home run. So he's been a fun guy to watch so far. He's not going to make the roster, unfortunately. He actually maybe get cuts or get reassigned soon, but it's a guy who you're telling yourself, all right, like, now let's continue to fine tune that stuff on defense behind the plate. And it's looked acceptable so far, I would say. No errors. It's been fine, I think. Now it's just a matter of let's see that a little more consistently with Ramirez. And he should be a big leaguer real soon. It's just hard. Liam Hicks really made a good impression. Sandy really likes catching, throwing to him. So, and then obviously you're not going to get rid of Nick Fortes. So yeah, I like Augustin. And the other name that's really stood out to me is Graham Pauley. He's gotten off to a pretty nice start with the Marlins too. I think 9 games played. They're playing him at third base exclusively so far, but he could play a little bit at second. I think left field as well if needed. But He's been good. I know Christina had him in the most recent roster projection, and I'm surprised, but at the same time, it's a guy whose clock has already started, so you don't have much to lose there, and it's a guy who could help you out. Could play a couple positions, could slot in there at third every once in a while if you want to have Norby maybe DH a night or whatever it may be. But yeah, those are two guys at least on the position player side that have really enjoyed watching, and I think Paulie has a good shot at making it. Now it's just a matter of what they think about Eric Wagaman, which is kind of his competition to make this roster, and where they view some other guys. But I think overall it really comes down, and at least in the roster battle or roster crunch, it comes down to Paulie and Wagaman for that final bench spot if it does come down to that.
Yeah, I want to go to you, Carver. That with some cuts coming down, guys being reassigned like Troy, Patrick Monteverde, Joe Mack. Were there some names maybe you were surprised about, or all these names really what you expected to get reassigned at this point in spring training?
Nothing really too surprising. I had hoped that Joe Mack would have stuck around a little longer. Same with Davidson De Los Santos. But I think that it's expected that those guys were going to start in the minors, so I wasn't really too surprised. Troy, I don't know what that guy has to do to stick around longer, but no, I wasn't really surprised by any of the cuts, really. These guys were all guys that I think we expected to start down there, especially the younger guys to save the extra year. So no, I wasn't. I mean, Snelling, that's a guy who I think definitely will be up this year. I figured maybe he would stay a little bit longer, but again, expected. I don't think that there's any real surprises here. I think these guys were all expected to start down there. I thought some of them would stick around a little longer, particularly Mack, Snelling, and De Los Santos, but not too surprised about any of them going down at all.
Your boy Josh Eknes is still around. I'm a little bit surprised that he's hanging around quite this long. When
It's a stud.
I was gonna say it's just more like surprising about the guys who are still here, like a Heriberto Hernandez. As bad as that name may sound, it's just like
they've performed. Like Jansen Junk has performed, and Hernandez has performed.
Exactly,
has performed. So
yeah,
Roberts has been. I think Roberts has been good. So
it seems like they're pretty open into who's going to be in the outfield, because I think McCullough even mentioned that there's space for both Stowers and Conan on that roster still. Seems like they're really rotating that center field spot a lot. I know Hernandez hasn't played in center, but Almora has, for example. I'm sure he's going to have to. He'll probably accept his demotion or reassigned to AAA. He did it last time. I really don't see. That's pretty fun. I don't know. I don't see him, electing free agency, for example. Rob Brantley. I'm interested to see what someone like a Brantley would do, if he's going to want to stick around or what's going to happen there. Because you look at it, you have an Augustin, you have a Joe Mack, two guys who probably will start at AAA, and then you have Brantley there. So I don't know, but I think the reliever side's pretty interesting. Your boy Austin Roberts Carver's still there. He's been pretty good so far this spring. I'm actually surprised he's still there, but again,
Jansen Junk.
He's been good. Yeah, Jansen Junk. I know Nate, you were able to talk to him.
Nate's guy.
Driveline guy. A lot of I mean, look, it's more. I'm more surprised about the guys that are still here rather than who's been cut. I think everyone that's been cut, I expected. Troy's the only one that kind of took me by surprise. I thought they would maybe leave him there up until the end, but Hernandez has been performing it, so I think he has the right to stick here up until he's no longer performing. I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah. I want to hear from Marcelo really quickly on this topic, on some of the names here, what you expect, and maybe what cuts you would have made if you were in that position.
I'll say I really like Edwards. I think he's hit the ground running again. He's doing what he did second half of last year, which I thought he was going to regress a bit, and I'm really encouraged by what he's doing, at least in the plate. I can't watch much of his fielding, but it's really encouraging that he hasn't lost a step at all. And about who do I think, or who am I surprised that hasn't been cut? I really like Junk. I think he's been awesome. Has like 5 different pitches. I think he's stretched out as a starter. Will probably be a good depth piece. And I'm surprised I haven't seen any more of Gillespie. I don't know if you guys know if he's injured or something, but I haven't seen any more of him. I liked him too. On the hitting side, I've liked Ronnie Simon. I think he's perfect Peter Bendix guy. He's done pretty well. And I'm just a little tired of some of these so-called veterans stealing some ABs and stealing seeing some playing time. I'd rather see Mac than Bradley. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, to be fair though, like the veterans aren't even stealing that much. Like, an Albert Amore's barely played. Like, it's been a lot of coming in late. Same thing with Brantley, and I do see where you're coming from though. But at the end of the day, it's just like they're probably gonna want those guys to get some ABs because those guys at some point will be a major leaguer. Maybe not Brantley, but definitely Almore at some point. But
Please no.
yeah, Junk is someone who's actually like surprised me a lot too because when I was looking at the numbers today, it's like it was really just one bad start. Outside of that, he's been awesome. So I think that's the same case with Rooney. I want to say John Rooney, a lefty, and that's someone who Clayton McCullough's mentioned a lot. Simpson as well, two guys who we'll see what happens with them too.
They need lefties, so
they do. So
yeah.
and the surprising thing is like and I know Simpson was on the 40 man, but you would want to add at least one there, but. I guess they just don't have any like hurry to do that at all. There's no need to, I guess. But they have Veneziano on the 40 man. He'll probably make the opening day roster. Now knowing Nardi will start on the IL, so I'll be interested to see what that competition looks like.
I was surprised by Veneziano. He's top 10 in swinging strike rate. Whip rate in all of spring.
Yeah.
I didn't have that on my radar. I saw it today, and I was like, oh, that's pretty nice.
He
was a good observation.
He was a guy that I was surprised stuck around throughout this whole off season. I was like,
yeah,
okay. They definitely see something, and yeah, he's shown it. I mean, 95, 96. It's been good.
Yeah, from a couple of minutes ago, that was a good observation on Gillespie because he has not pitched since March 3rd. He has not pitched in 8 days. If he doesn't pitch tomorrow, then we will investigate further. But that does smell like a potential injury setback of some kind, unfortunately.
Did well against the Mets, too.
It
was pretty good.
They used Christian Roa the other day, and like he's already in minor league camp over Gillespie, so that's something we could ask. I guess I'll be there Friday. So,
before we head into the spring breakout game and everything that really entails there, I want to talk a little bit more on the rotation and then get into some batting average on some players. But the player I want to talk about from the rotation is Cal Quantrill. Just how rough really he's been so far this spring, including his last outing. Against, I believe, the Nationals, where he gave up just, I think it was, let me see here, 3 earned runs, 5 hits, 1 strikeout. Kevin, talk to me about Cal. If it's just a beginning of what we might see coming into this regular season, it's going to be a lot of that from Cal, or do you think that was just a one-off sort of appearance from him?
Well, this is the thing with that second start, we have no clue how he looked. Like all we could look at is the box score.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think this guy came in a little late, so we have to keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. He did not look good in that first start whatsoever. The velo was down. I don't know what the velo looked like in the second start. He did have some appearances in the backfields. I know Hector was there to catch that. But yeah, I'm interested. I think a lot of it's just like getting readjusted now, no longer in cores, and now he's going to a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. I know it's been more hitter-friendly recently, but still, I mean, it's a ballpark that's gonna, help him out a lot. It's gonna benefit him. So I'm not too worried. I want to see, maybe one more start during the spring. He'll probably get 1 or 2 more before the season begins. But yeah, I'm not too concerned, to be honest. I'm not gonna take the numbers too hard yet. Now, if it's what Edward's been doing, where Edward Cabrera's gone out there 3 times and he's been really bad all 3 times. Then you kind of start thinking, we'll see what's going on here.
Yeah, just a rough outing, rough start, but from Cal, like you mentioned, probably just because he started really late and signing him to that point. Eli, I know we mentioned earlier in our chat, I know, Kevin, you asked for the top 6 maybe players who played the most games so far this season. And, we saw that list, and a bit surprising was just how well some of these players are performing, and maybe the players are getting that much run so far this season, including someone like Griffin Conine. You mentioned Hernandez there getting a lot of playing time and really ripping off the baseball. For the whole panel here, are there anything here that you're looking at that maybe catches your eye, or maybe a bit of an expectation that, coming into this season with these players based on just these numbers?
I just thought it was interesting that Joe Mack has gotten into this many games because he was coming off a great year. It's just that he's in a situation where there's no path to him actually making the roster yet. And yet he's gotten into, as you see, as many games as anybody else has to this point. This is 10 out of 15. I'm not sure the exact number they've played to this point, but he's appeared in a lot, and he was DHing for this most recent one. Yeah, I think that just speaks to how much they like him a lot. And in terms of whether he even gets called up this year, that's going to be fascinating just because of kind of the log jam at that position. If they intend to actually hold on to Liam Hicks, if they seriously intend to try out Augustine at catcher, even on a part-time basis. But they're going to find room for him in the not too distant future. If he is hitting this well and he continues to be the same Gold Glove caliber defender that he was last year. He did win the minor league Gold Glove this year, and the early looks this year have been pretty smooth on him too. So that speaks to just how far he's come in one calendar year. Imagine where he was last year. Some of us did not think he was a top 30 prospect in this system at this time 1 year ago. And now he is exactly where he is right now, along with some of these other regulars here. Conine is somebody that, this is why we really can't overreact even at this point. The sample sizes are almost inconsequential, but especially so the first week of the season, because I don't think Conine got a single hit until his 5th or 6th game of the spring. And then now all of a sudden he's coming off one of the best individual games that anybody has had. And all of a sudden his overall numbers look just fine. And all of a sudden it's like, there's no longer any question about him making the roster. He is going to make the opening day roster. It's a question about exactly what role and how frequently his playing time is. Yeah, that's why we don't really look at the stats themselves too much. And the other wrinkle that I guess we'll continue to monitor these final week and a half is potentially how Roger Dean might be playing a little bit differently than it has in the past, where this is a notoriously pitcher-friendly ballpark, one that suppresses home runs at an extreme level. And we have a game like yesterday where there are a couple wall scrapers that just make it out, entering a year where they have moved the bullpens behind the outfield walls and therefore adjusted the dimensions ever so slightly in the gaps in a way that I think who cares about the spring training results, but I'm also curious to see how that carries over to the regular season when the low A Jupiter team plays over there, and how maybe all of a sudden the park factors might look slightly more neutral than they have in the past. And that could change how we view some of the hitting prospects and the pitching prospects that come through this organization in that capacity. So that's just one thing that I was already paying attention to, but these last few games where this offense has suddenly exploded, I put out the stat on Twitter that they've already homered more times than they did all of last year in spring training. And I don't think that's necessarily a reflection of talent upgrades, more so than just subtle changes to the environmental factors surrounding these spring training games.
Yeah, and I do like that you mentioned Conine, because I was going to mention him. It's, and I was actually looking at this, and it's 22% strikeout rate, which would be the best of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good to see. The power's there. I think if someone's earned himself a spot on this roster, it's Griffin. He's probably going to be starting at left field on opening day. So I'm excited to see that, and it's a lefty bat that they need in a lineup. So never hurts to have him.
I just think it's interesting that two guys that I personally don't think are going to make the roster, and Hernandez and Simon are getting a lot of run. I mean, Hernandez is looking really good, as Daniel mentioned, but two guys that Peter Bendich knows pretty well from his time in Tampa. They both spent a couple years there, so maybe just Bendich getting those guys a lot of run, see what they have, because he knows them probably better than anyone else.
His at-bats are good, too. I mean, last year, International League, when he got called up to AAA, he was terrible. Like, he was really bad in AAA. Mm-hmm. And then he comes back. His at-bats are good. His at-bats usually have always been good. His on-base percentage has always been good. But now he's finding more contact. And he has flexibility, too. Like, he's played catcher in his career. Like, early in his career, he played first base. He could play both corners, so it's not just corners. Like, he could probably play at least first base. I mean, I guess he could be like an emergency catcher if they needed him to, maybe as well. So he has some positional flex, too. And like I said, his at-bats look really good. So I like Hernandez. That's a cool story, especially after how he struggled in an easy – Eli was talking about hit environments. International League, extremely easy to hit in notoriously. But he was really bad in AAA last year with the bat, but he's got it back. And it's 10 games. I'm not overreacting, but he looks good. Just everything he does looks pretty good. The defense looks good too. I like that guy. I think that he deserves a shot.
Yeah, just with everything there, talking about Griffin, Conine, Edwards, all that. I want to go ahead and talk about the first base position. I don't know if you guys want to mention that for a bit, because really we've seen a bit of a showcase from Matt Mervis and how he's been performing really well. Kevin, talk to us a little bit about Matt Mervis and how he's pushing himself to be in that starting first baseman role come opening day.
Yeah, I think it was going to be there regardless, but it's refreshing to see that he's really looked good so far this spring, and maybe the change of scenery is helping him. I believe he had a homer yesterday. He had one. He was the first Marlins hitter to hit a home run this spring, and he's looked good. I think just a little work at first still defensively, but it'll be him. It'll probably be a platoon of him and Bride, with one's not playing first, the other one's DHing, and vice versa. So yeah, I like what I've seen from Mervis so far. He's been probably, I guess, the nicest surprise this spring because of just, didn't have the opportunity in Chicago, got blocked by so many guys. They got Trey Mancini, signed Michael Bush. I believe they had Eric Hosmer there at some point. So
Yeah.
good, good to see that he's out of there. He was a top prospect before, raked in AAA. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not going to take this too much, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. He knows the ballpark well. Lone Depot, played there in the WBC. He says he likes playing there, so we'll see how it goes. So I think the change of scenery so far is helping him out.
Yeah, you don't think Wagman's gonna get it at all? You don't think he's coming for that job at all? But no, it's been interesting to say the least there. I want to go ahead now and talk a bit. Now we have Marcelo here. I want to talk about the spring breakout roster. I know we mentioned that a little bit the other day, but now you have some time to think about it. We have the rosters. We know maybe who's going to be starting. Maybe we could see what the potential lineup could be. Carver, now you have time to process this roster for the spring breakout game. What really stands out to you? What would you like the lineup to be, and maybe what you're hoping to see from the top guys?
Well, what stands out mostly is the difference just from last year when they had an entire column separated for relief pitchers. You don't really see that here. You just see right-handed and left-handed, and most of these guys should be able to stick as starters, I believe. If not all of them, possibly to stick as starters. Like, they all have a chance to stick as a starting pitcher. Whereas last year they were already had their minds made up that these guys are relief pitchers, and they are. And then just talent level, right? These new additions, Acosta, Caba, De Los Santos, all three right there at the top. Andrew Salas, who's going to be so good. Like, just those infielders, like how many new guys are there? Vargas is another new guy, like, right? So so many new guys that are now top prospects that they've added to the system. So this is exciting. I thought last year's roster was good. I think this year's roster is worlds away better. And it's just a testament to the amount of talent that they've brought into this organization. So people can look at this and say that, it came at the cost of big league players, but this is what they're building here. And I think that holds weight. I'm excited to watch Dylan Head. I think that guy's good. I'm excited, of course, to watch my boy Valor. He's good. Joe Mack, Ramirez is there. Dax, who's been great in spring training. I love that kid. Thomas White, of course, Noble Meyer. You get to see some guys that haven't even pitched yet. Aiden May and Grant Shepardson, both of whom have looked great in spring training. Milbrandt looks improved. Like, this is exciting, and this is a really good roster. I think we're going to see some good stuff on Friday from these kids. I'm super excited for this game. It's going to be a fun day out there. A long day in Jupiter, but it's going to be a fun day in Jupiter for this one. I'm excited.
You talked about new guys. I mean, every one of those infielders was not in the organization this time last year. I think it's really exciting. And what I really took away is that both Carter Johnson and PJ Orlando are going to be in this game. They both got drafted not even a year ago. So it's going to be, I think, a lot of the first-time fans see these guys take at bats in the Marlins uniform. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. And just to see PJ, how he looks in the outfield as well.
Well, the interesting thing I found here is, as well as, like, a lot of these guys are going to make their organizational debut. Like Carver mentioned, Aiden May, Andrew Salas is debuting, and I know for Salas, it's a different stage. He's played on a bigger stage and, a Venezuelan league, which isn't great, but still, I mean, playing with guys that are 40-year-olds is something. So yeah, this is awesome. Well, Caba making his organizational debut as well. So this is a completely different roster from what we saw last year. I think Sanoja, White, Noble are probably like three of the guys I remember from last year's. VMJ as well. Dylan Head, we're going to be able to see him for the first time in person. I know his Jupiter career was short-lived last season. So, yeah, like, this is going to be super cool. I wish they were playing a different team other than the Cardinals. I wish they would change that up a little bit. But honestly, I think this is still an awesome event. I think the Marlins are the first game of the day as well. So maybe they're on MLB Network. I know that this will be streamed on the Cardinals FanDuel Sports Network. So still super cool. And I'm excited to see what these guys look like.
I'll call out a guy that nobody's thinking of really quick. is probably the guy that people look at on this list and don't really like. Maybe they know who he is because he was in a trade, but they're probably like, okay, that guy's there. Brian Mendoza, that guy, left-handed pitcher, has been amazing every time I've seen him in spring training. Live BPs have looked really good. His slider is sick. I think that guy is good. He's a lefty. I think he's only like 21. Marlins need lefties in the system. They have some, but obviously, as you can see here, they have these long-term pieces that are good. This guy's only played at single A advanced, but I think he's going to make it up to double A by the end of the year if he continues to go on the track he's going. In the Jake Burger trade, I think that guy's really good. So I am so glad to see Brian Mendoza included here. Watch for that guy. I think that he could be good.
What's his velo at, Alex? Is it 95, 94? Is it increased?
The last I checked in, it's been 90s. Like 90, 95, 94 to 96.
That's a velo pump. That's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, because I watched a lot of him from last year after the trade, and I liked it, but I also had it in the back of my head that, it's 92, 93 for the most part. And then in the early glimpse, drive line magic sprinkling on all these other guys.
Yeah, you kind of hear him shouting it out on the fields, too, because it's like right in front of them after they throw the pitch, so you can kind of see it. I've seen him up to like 95, 96, I think, from the looks of that radar. But yeah, I would say it's probably 94, 96. I can get it confirmed, but that's what I think he's at.
And I'm excited to see what Noble does too. It'll probably be an inning, but I know we were talking to him, Carver, and he's made a couple changes, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And a healthy Noblemeyer, I know he mentioned that a lot of his struggles last season were due to some sort of injury that he had. So we'll see what it looks like. And that's one guy I'm looking forward to watching, not just the spring game, but just overall. I mean.
It was like back leg issue. Yeah,
some sort of issue he had there. And he was dealing with something too during this spring too. Now he's fully healthy now, and we'll see what it looks like on Friday.
I just think it's pretty
he's like 5 miles an hour. Like, so that's insane. That guy's gonna be sick. Like I really think people are down on him after last year, but he was injured. According to him, it didn't require IL, but he was dealing with just some like injury that wouldn't go away that kind of permeated into his legs from his back. So, I mean, he was dealing with something. So it was pretty clear that he was probably dealing with something. But back fully healthy, he's got like another 5 miles an hour, he said, on his fastball. And then they're changing his slider grip from to a two-seam grip so that it doesn't have to. And they're doing that with a couple of guys. I've explained this, that they're switching it to more of that two-seam grip so that they don't have to rely on spin too much. So it's a lower effort pitch. That's the kind of analytical thinking that I think is going to take prospects like Noble to the next level. So I think Noble's in a good spot, and I'm excited to watch him in this game and this season.
I think it's pretty cool that the Marlins are really focused on this game because other organizations don't have all of their top prospects in their own spring breakout game. I think it's pretty cool from the Marlins perspective that I don't think we're missing anyone, right? They're all here, so I think that's pretty cool. And you don't really see it. Also tells me a bit that we still have a lot of prospects that are pretty far away, because if they were in an MLB competition, like I don't know, like a Jackson Joe, they probably wouldn't be here, right? They'd probably be pitching every single inning they can in spring. So I think that's pretty cool, and something I'd like to shout out and hope the Marlins do is, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter these organizational accounts for prospects, right? So the Twins have one. I think the Pirates have one. I'd really love it if the Marlins can like do a separate prospect Twitter account where they just show us highlights and pretty interesting stuff. Because if they're going all in on these prospects and want to sell these prospects to like the not diehard fans, that's one of the best ways to do it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow at Marlins Miners and you'll have that same content.
Yeah, that's true.
You already have the account, man. Come on.
That's true.
I already know that Daniel is a long time, one of my longest time supporters, so he knows about that. The only guy you mentioned, guys that aren't here, I would just say there's one, and it's only because he's not stateside yet, is Kevin DeFrank. That's literally it. Other than that, like, they're all there pretty much. Unless you want to talk about like other guys in the DR, like Kova, could come stateside this year, probably will. De La Cruz, he was stateside already. You could talk about him, but I think everybody, at least in the top 20, except for DeFrank, in our opinion, is here. So Yeah, I think DeFrank's the only one.
Yeah, for what it's worth, 27 of our top 30 prospects that fish on first are participating in this game. I think it was like DeFrank was one of them, and I'm missing the other two names. But
He mentioned Kova as
Dishmay.
well.
Dishmay is the other one who's not playing in this game. And there's another
Kova, Luis Kova.
Kova. Oh wow, Kova's not in there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
Does Dylan Head get the start in the outfield? Who would it be? Or is it maybe VMJ, Cambit, and maybe
Mesa's hurt still, isn't he? Isn't Mesa still hurt?
He's still hurt. Or is he going to be? Okay,
I don't know what's the update on Mesa. I heard he should have been pretty good up until now. We'll see.
Remember last year he missed it due to injury, but they replaced him on the roster a few days in advance. The fact that they haven't replaced him yet means maybe they don't care. Maybe there's not like another outfield they're forcing into the game, or it means that he is likely good to go. But fingers crossed, it's good to go because that was a bummer that he had to miss it last year.
There's also a good opportunity for the two catchers to get a lot of run. Mac and Ramirez, only two guys there. I know last year it was like Mac and PMac and another guy. So good opportunity for both of them to get some run with guys that are going to be catching. So yeah, I mean, I like this. This is awesome. They should continue to do this. I wish it was a 9-inning game, but I do understand that there's a game after that. So but hopefully in the future, 9 innings would be lovely to watch. A full 9 innings of minor league baseball, the best of the best prospects,
or more games.
Yeah, that too.
Make it a series. Best of 3.
I like it. Yeah, add some more competition to that. Yeah.
Eli, I think we have a little ad break before we head into some more topics.
Yeah, let's do like this. We'll do a flipped fish in the spirit of a spring breakout, a Marlins Cardinals edition of flipped fish right here. For anybody that is unfamiliar, I pick somebody that played for both the Marlins and a specific opposing team during the MLB career. And you guys try to figure out who that might be. This one, I have it as a 4.5 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It's kind of middle of the pack. A right-handed pitcher, tall right-handed pitcher, relatively recently retired. Debuted in 2010 through 2022. And as you see, quite a few saves during his career as well. So got some closing opportunities right there. Good numbers overall, a 2.98 career ERA. Do we have any guesses about our flipped fish player? I know you guys are rusty. Haven't done one of these in a while.
No.
Did Cishek pitch
for
for the
Cishek, was it him?
Oh,
Steve Cishek. Very good.
Oh, I didn't know if he was a Cardinal.
There you go. Nice.
He was traded directly to the Cardinals from the Marlins. So that is what I thought equalized it and made it gettable.
Okay.
Even though he only spent a couple months with them. Yeah.
There we go.
What a stud.
I was going to say Calero because I know that he pitched for both teams, but I know he's not from Massachusetts. So
I was between Cishek and Brad Hand, but Hand wasn't a reliever up until very late into his career. So no way he could have racked up 133 saves.
Yeah. Thought about Andrew Miller too, but I know he's, I think, taller than 6'6". I'm pretty sure. So
yeah.
And a lefty, not a righty. So
yeah. I'll take this opportunity to plug, as mentioned at the top of the show, we have our own merch now in a partnership with About the Fans, a combination of FOF branded stuff as well as items inspired by Marlins players, etc. Hats, t-shirts, polo shirts, stickers. And we'll be adding more stuff throughout the year. All your original ideas are welcome. If people want to suggest things that aren't available through the team directly or elsewhere on MLB Shop or whatever, that we can fill the void, we're happy to do it. Partnered with the great designers at About the Fans. And hopefully by the next stream, I will have my own stuff to actually wear on the stream. And then hopefully by the opening day stream, the rest of our staff will have their own fresh editions of the merch to rep on the show and to spread the word about what we're doing. So this has been a missing component to our coverage the past couple of years in terms of actually having wearable things promoting what we do. But as I said, a combination of FOF inspired FOF stuff and Marlins inspired designs as well. So we hope you guys check it out. It's been scrolling on the bottom. You just go to aboutthefans.com. We are the first collection that appears when you scroll down a little bit on their homepage, and you can browse through everything they have to offer there.
Awesome. Get that. And don't forget down, you could check on the ticker. You could save 10% on your next order. I want to talk about, again, recently, we've talked about the starters. We talked about Ryan Weathers. What do you guys think? How has Sandy been performing as of late for you guys? I know he's just been dominating, not just on the mound, but also in the headlines as well. Talking about his potential innings limit. Is there an innings limit? Did he even know there was an innings limit? What have you guys seen from Sandy so far? And how do you think he's going to go ahead and when he goes against the Pirates at opening day?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Sandy opening day. I'm kind of tired of watching these 3-inning outings of Sandy, to be honest with you. But it's anytime you get to watch Sandy, it's a good time, and he's looked really good. But I really want to know. I mean, I really want to just know what he looks like on opening day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at this point, it's just like it's going to be the same stuff. He's going to work on something different every time. Probably these last 2 outings for him, it'll be just trying to see, what it looks like overall. Everything he's worked on, not work on something similar, something specific, better said. So yeah, he's looked good. I mean, it's Sandy. It looks as good as in a while, honestly. But averaging 97, 96, 97, topping out 99, 100. It's fun stuff. So he'll probably get 2 more starts, I got to think. And after that, it's against hopefully Paul Skeens on opening day.
One thing I want to mention on Sandy, there was a bit of a idea thrown out internally among our staff that, wow, he keeps throwing to Liam Hicks in his bullpens. And he says nice things about Liam Hicks. And I just want to pour water on that because he did throw to Fortes in this most recent start. And just reflecting on the history of Rule 5 guys, whatever good that Hicks does in spring training, that's great. That essentially locks him into the opening day roster. I think that Sandy's going to be throwing to Fortes on opening day. I think Fortes is going to start the clear majority of games, at least early on in the season, which will be fascinating, as has been noted by several people. Like, they have not worked together in a regular season game ever. So that will be an interesting transition. I just want to note that the most recent game had them paired together, and it would be a very bold idea to start a Rule 5 guy on opening day with Sandy. I guess it's still possible, but my educated guess is that we have Sandy and Fortes working together early in the year. And yeah, we'll see how that goes, because so far, very, very good. And despite all the speculation that, wow, all of a sudden the Yankees need an ace, so they're going to empty out their entire farm system for Sandy, I think that is a little bit overstated. And that's not really how front offices run things. It makes it pretty clear that the Yankees are a team that's going to be in the mix for Sandy whenever he is traded. And I do realize that Bendix has, in the timing of the deals that Bendix has swung, he's made it clear that he's not all that concerned with the public relations aspect of it, that whenever the fair offer presents itself, he's going to swing a trade. I have just an impossible time believing that something's going to come together all of a sudden. The past couple of weeks had desperation. The next couple of weeks had desperation. I think all this is going to wait until a more conventional time, considering how much trade capital it would take for the Marlins to consider a deal, and of course to get as many teams involved as possible if that time comes in July around then.
The one thing I will say with what you mentioned about Sandy and who his catcher will be is, I mean, Fortes probably was in there just because they needed him to catch. Like, he needed to catch. He had been out for a pretty long time. He needed ABs. He was hitting towards the top of the lineup. Like, that's the one time he's caught Sandy all spring. Like, just because he caught him once, and Hicks has caught the bullpens, the side sessions, everything else. They haven't even had Nick Fortes catch him one of those times. So, I don't know. I think it'll be Liam Hicks catching Sandy opening day. Sandy has clearly mentioned that he wants Hicks there on opening day.
No.
Yes,
He's
he
not.
did. Yes, he did.
Was he?
Yes, he
Said
that,
I don't think
Eli.
he said
Come
that.
on.
I think you're
Yeah,
taking
he
him
did.
out of context. I don't think he
No,
requested
not.
publicly that Hicks
No.
catch him on opening day.
No, I didn't say that. I said that he wants him there on opening day on the roster.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what I
He'll
said.
get that.
I didn't say he wants
He'll
him catching him. But that's who's caught him the whole time up until the other day, because they needed Fortes ABs. He needs to be in there. He needs to catch because he had a pretty bad groin contusion.
Right.
Come on.
What do you think the problem is? You mentioned, let's just say Hicks does start opening day for Sandy. Let's just say hypothetically. What do you think that says about Fortes and his battery with Sandy, that it seems like, never catching a game for him in the regular season? What do you think that relationship is, or maybe to the point where, they brought in, almost a catcher off the street, and he's getting to start on opening day for Sandy, where you have Fortes, who's been here years, won't get that opportunity. Well, what do you think that says about Fortes?
I think it says that Hicks is a better hitter. I think is what it says most of all. That Fortes is just a here today. Like, we thought he had it figured out at the plate, and then it turns out that he pretty much, I don't think, does. I know that catcher is not the most offensive minded position. Like, the important thing is receiving pitchers. And I think that he does an okay job at that overall. I don't think he does a great job at that overall. I think it's just okay. So yeah, I think it just says the skill set of Hicks, who the Marlins did and are going to likely give a 26-man roster spot to for most of the season unless he gets injured. He's going to be involved, right? So I think that, I don't think it'll be Hicks like most of the time. I think it'll probably be more like even split, honestly, until like Augustin is ready if they want to keep him at catcher. But I really think they like the bat, and I really think they like his overall ability to just come in to a new organization and get things done rather quickly. He's had an amazing spring training. He's handling these guys like he's seen them all before. I think that he is better than Fortes in a lot of ways, including offensively. I also think he's better defensively in some ways than Nick Fortes. Receiving, blocking, like a lot of the challenges that he's called for has gone his way. So I think that he knows the strike zone well. I think he knows how to handle pitchers. I think he knows how to call. I think that he is good. So I think what it says overall, to answer your question, is just the overall ability of Nick Fortes on both sides of the ball is not as good, I don't think, as a lot of what Liam Hicks is doing.
Yeah, to say that there with Sandy. Anything else you guys want to mention? I don't want to wrap up or anything, but anything, now we're getting to this portion of the stream, anything you guys really have noticed on from the Marlins at this point, gearing up for the regular season, whether maybe defensively, offensively, anything you guys really want to mention?
I like that they've taken their walks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They've been walking a lot. Like, their chase rate has been pretty good. They've been pretty adamant, I think, on all the clubhouse interviews that they've been doing and everything, and that you guys have been doing too. They've always talked about chase rate, can't be chasing. And I think they're like fourth in walks in spring right now, which is pretty encouraging because they're putting the money where their mouth is. So I'd really like to keep looking at that. And I think that they're gonna try to be a really annoying team that just like the hard outs and good pitching and make some teams get really pissed at them.
Yeah, I hope it's a real indication of what they're doing. Well, to play devil's advocate, this is of course one of the youngest spring training groups and least experienced guys that I guess you would expect to put more value in their spring training at bats than veterans do. And I would think that one way that shakes itself out is you see veteran players on other teams just looking to get their swings in and kind of going out of their way not to walk because they actually want to make sure that their swing is calibrated the right way in these reps that they're getting, in a way that guys that are fighting for a job and fighting to prove themselves are really focused on the quality of the at-bat in a way that I think players on other rosters across the league aren't so much. In that way, maybe walk rates elsewhere on other teams might be depressed a little bit by the fact that veterans don't really care. The guys that actually have guaranteed jobs on other teams don't necessarily care about working those deep counts in this particular setting, whereas in the Marlins camp, each of these guys are really incentivized to show that they can distinguish balls and strikes. So, we'll see, but there's really nowhere to go but up from last year in terms of their plate discipline. So I am, like you, I'm cautiously optimistic that they are going to go up, even with this current group, that they are going to walk more than they did last year.
To answer the question that was on the bottom of the screen about Ramirez, from what I have seen about defense, I think that he's been a lot better with receiving He's framed some pitches that have looked really good. I think that he's stolen some strikes that way. I do, even with the challenge system, because he can't challenge every pitch. I think that he's stolen some strikes that way. I think that he's looked good with framing. I think he still has a lot of work to do, though, with blocking. I think that he has work to do with the arm. So this is far from a finished product at catcher. Can he still stick at it as a catcher? I mean, if you put it to me today, I would say, and with the small sample size that we've seen, I don't think that he will. But he does look improved, at least in one facet of the game with framing, and offensively he looks amazing. So you do what you can do and what you need to do to get that bat in the lineup if what he's showing is going to continue, because he's probably been the best consistent bat in Marlins spring training. I think that he's been the best bat in spring training overall.
I like how you mentioned receiving, because against the Braves, they don't have ABS at that stadium. And I think it was twice that he tapped and he wanted to challenge it. So I think he has a better feel for the catcher position, honestly. And I think he has blocked a little bit better. I mentioned it last time, but there were 3 drop through strikes in one inning. He ought to block and make the throw to first. So I think baby steps is important for him. I'm not going to expect him to win a Gold Glove out of nowhere, but just to see that he's improving a little bit, it's very exciting. Like you said, Carter, just any way you can get that bat in the order would be nice. And one more guy I'd like to mention, Connor Norby made a little bit of a swing adjustment, or just his stance, I should say, moved his hands up a little bit. I think he had a monster day on, was it Sunday? And West Palm, he's been swinging the stick really well. A guy that the Marlins should expect to take a big leap this year and be one of the face of the team. So it's nice to see him. He's also, like Eli mentioned, working counts a little bit better. Not really having the watch to show for it. He's still striking out a little bit too much, but don't want to drink the spring Kool-Aid too much. But he is looking really good as well.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and maybe talk about this. I know you mentioned him before, but about Edward Cabrera. I know you mentioned he's been having such a rough spring. Going into this regular season, what is the leash on Edward Cabrera? How short is his leash in this regular season? Is it someone, maybe if he has 4, 5 rough starts, that maybe he's already going down to AAA if he has any options left? Or just where do you see the point where Eric Cabrera, where maybe enough is enough?
I know there was a report by Barry Jackson that mentioned that if he continued to struggle, they would actually consider going with Beoza. But Beoza's been just as bad, if not even worse. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what that'll look like. But it's hard because the pitching depth, yeah, you look at what they're doing now during spring training, it looks good. But, it's going to be different in the regular season. When you have a Connor Gillespie or a Jansen Junk starting, it won't be as good as it'll be in spring training. You're hoping it will be, but yeah, I mean, if Edward's struggling, you're really going to have to consider putting him in the bullpen. And I think that's something we've spoken about many times. I think even after what we've seen this spring, it's not looking any different. The velo's there. The stuff is there. It's just, your control is terrible. I mean, the guy keeps walking dudes, giving up a ton of homers. Like, it's not good. And I know Beoza's been just as bad recently, but yeah, I think it should be a pretty short lease with Edward, in my opinion, at least.
I would say with the pitching depth that is close or near ready, Snelling, Mazer, guys like that. I would say it's, if those guys are performing in the minors, I would say it's, once they can save the extra year of control, if he is struggling through his first 4 to 5 starts, I would say, I think that bullpen maybe could work for him. If his control is as bad as we've seen it in this spring training and continues to be that bad as we start the season, I think he may even be sent back. I mean, if he still has options, he could even be sent back. So I think he still has options. So I would say that he doesn't have options. No. Yeah. Okay. So then he's going to the bullpen. But if he had options, I would say he would go to AAA, because his control is that bad that he may need to figure it out elsewhere. But since he doesn't have options, I was just about to check that. Since he doesn't have option years, it would be the bullpen. And then maybe just, try to do baby steps and get him back to it sparingly in terms of working every second day or first day rather than working every 5th day. That's an adjustment. He's going to need to adjust to that. So I don't think it would be that he just goes to the bullpen and throws every single day, right? Because you need to adjust to throwing more frequently, even though you're throwing less innings. That's a different schedule. It's a different routine. A player needs to adjust to that. So if he does go to the bullpen, then I think that we see him throw to start with maybe every second or third day, and they build him up from there to maybe throw more frequently than that. Hopefully he can figure out his control and contribute still in medium to high leverage situations. I would like to think that this is a guy that can still contribute something in limited showings, but he's had bad control in every inning. Like, he's had bad control from the start of his outings. His control has just not been there. So it hasn't even been a guy that you can say, like, oh, yeah, he just struggles second, third time through. Let's put him in the bullpen. He's been bad every single time through the lineup, including the first time. So I'm not going to say I'm totally out on his future to contribute to a Major League Baseball team, but chances are it's getting closer to that. If he can't contribute out of the bullpen, what do you do? Yeah, stuff's great, but if you can't control it, you can't really pitch. So he doesn't have options. He would go to the bullpen. They'd probably use him sparingly. They'd build him up to maybe hopefully contribute still in medium to high leverage. That would be my hope for him. My hopes for him as a starter am I out on him as a starter? I'm about 90% out on him as a starter.
I'll follow you up. I think I'm 100% out at this point. I just go back to what Clayton said pregame, that it's time for Edward to take the next step. We didn't hear that from Stipp last year, but he said they're going to challenge him. They're going to do everything they can to help him. But it gets to a point where this guy, I said earlier, he has all the talent in the world. He's an incredible pitcher. He has all the talent, but it's the same problems that we've been talking about for 4 years now. He can't spot his pitches, and he can't go deep really into games because his pitch count gets too high. So it's, if anything, he's taking a step back this spring training. It really is just disappointing. I think he can carve out a role in the bullpen, but like Carver said, he's never been able to really command in any part of the game. So he's shown flashes. The thing with him really is when it gets to a point where you're about to give up on him, and then he delivers a gem, which I think happened a couple of times last year. And also last year, there was no really talent in the farm that you could say confidently is going to do better than him in the bigs. Now there is. So I think he has maybe a month and a half to start. If he continues to, step backwards instead of forwards, then I think it's time to pull the plug on him, at least as a starter.
Eli, do you think the bullpen is best reserved for him in a reliever type role, or maybe if they ever need an opener, Edward Cabrera is that guy?
Yeah, there's still hope that this could come together in an interesting way in the bullpen. I'm glad this commenter mentioned Mel. I mean, the reason why I've been low on Eddie for a while is that he was working with Mel for like 5 straight years. It's such a blessing to have the continuity working with the same major league pitching coach every single spring, and one that led to substantial positive changes for a lot of the guys that he came across. And yet with I remember it was a time last season. I mean, he did, to refresh people's memory, he had a pretty solid second half of the season. And a lot of that was linked to the same thing that kind of been bugging me the entire time. It's like he just doesn't throw his fastball enough as a starter to maximize the potential of his entire arsenal. And he started throwing it a little bit more, or at least more than he ever had before during that second half of last season. And Mel even talked about that in one of the rare interviews that he gave during that, how that makes a pretty substantial difference. So that is part of it, where it's just he clearly didn't absorb information. He was just not a coachable player during his time in the Marlins organization. And now entering this year, this coaching staff completely turns over. He has the different input and a completely different perspective from Bill Hiesel and from Daniel Moscas and everybody else. And you show up to spring training, we see that Ryan Weathers has improved his fastball shape, yada, 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 and things are looking great. His velo is up. Max Meyer over the offseason has really good conversations with these coaches. He's added a new sweeper. His velo is up, looks really good. And what has Edward done with that same new input from the same new coaches? It's there's nothing specific at all that he's disclosed. And speaking with us now after every single start that he's made to this point, that I think that holds him back. I think there's ways as a reliever where you can still be really successful without it. It's a much simpler task when you're just going one through an order and usually just one inning at a time. He hasn't been put in that position before. So it's just speculation to know exactly how it would translate there. But I've just been relatively low on Eddie because of those intangibles, at least as a starter capacity. And I do think that at some point during this upcoming season, he's going to make that transition.
Carver, I know you mentioned Andrew Miller earlier. Do you see any resemblance, any comparisons between him and Andrew so long ago?
I don't know. I think that it's different because Miller is a larger person than this guy. He's a lefty. But no, Andrew Miller had great stuff, and he was kind of a starter to start with. But I think they realized it more quickly than this that he wasn't going to stick long term as a starter. So Yeah, like Nate said, they kind of didn't have the prospect capital to do anything with Edward. Like they needed starting pitching so bad last year. You could look at some of the prospects they called up to start games. Like they just didn't have the prospect capital to say we're out right now. But now I think that with other guys around, Snelling, Mazur, kind of the top two that I would point to. You could even point to Dax, who when that guy's ready, he should be here for sure. I think that if he goes to AAA to start this year, maybe we see Dax this year. It's possible. Mm-hmm. I think with guys like that pushing their way and with better prospect capital, now you're in a position to say, okay, your stuff's great, but you can't control it. These guys have all improved and are pushing their way. So it's time for you to go to the pen at least. If not, maybe give them a change of scenery and see if another team can figure him out. That's another option at the trade deadline. Possible. Don't know what you would get. Don't ask me that question. I don't know. But that's another possibility as well for a player that's out of options that is not performing. So, yeah, with what they have in the farm system now, I think this guy's time is running out rather quickly as a starter.
One thing I will say about Edward is what I'm looking at is that he's healthy. Because normally when he struggled the most is when he comes back from injury. So he always takes like 2 or 3 starts, gets hit around, can't locate anything, and then he starts to get in a groove. And when he's in the groove and he's kind of good, well, not going to say he's an ace, but at least he's a solid starter, gets injured again. And hasn't been able, to be sustainable with it. I just want to see if he's healthy. I think that if he's healthy for a good amount of time, I think he's going to be a solid 5. Like we don't expect him to be Sandy. We don't expect him to be Yuri, but at least to eat some innings. And I think he's pretty close to his schedule, spring training injury, and start the season on the IL. So let's hope he doesn't get injured this time. But I'm not going to give up hope on him unless he's been 5, 6, 7 straight starts and he's been sucking, or if he gets injured again and again. And if he gets injured again, let's just get him into the bullpen and just, decrease his workload.
Yeah. I think really quickly I can ask you guys before we head out here. Let's say Edward Cabrera does struggle that first 4 or 5 couple games. They do maybe put him down to the bullpen. Who do you think is the next guy up for the Marlins? Who is the next pitcher up if, let's say, Eddie does maybe fall down to the bullpen in those 5 starts? Who is the first guy do you think Bendix calls up?
I think if Mazur is ready, you got to go with him, right? But
yeah,
I'm assuming they're going to go with Beozo first, and they'll keep Mazur down there. But the clock has started with Mazur, so
yeah,
got nothing to lose there. It looks pretty good overall. I know he added a new pitch. May as well do it. If they feel really good about Robbie Snelling, you can go with him as well. But I think Mazur would be the next guy up in terms of legit starting pitchers on the Marlins.
I just think Snelling's stuff is overall better than Mazur. I like Mazur, but I think Snelling's stuff is better. I also like Snelling a bit more physically. He's a bit more, he's a bit larger physically than Mazur. Not that Mazur can't be good. I think he could be good. I just like the ceiling of Snelling more. So if I understand that Mazur's clock has started, you're right. But if Snelling is outperforming him, I think it could be Snelling. I think he'll be up as soon as they can save the year of control. If he is performing, I think that he will be up. So I think it will be Snelling, but Mazur's not a bad pick.
Well, hopefully we get an update soon on Gillespie and how things are going with him. But I think the idea with Gillespie was potentially to keep him stretched out as a starter. And that's a sneaky idea of a guy that's already on the 40-man roster as a stopgap if neither Mazur or Snelling or Beozo get off to an exceptional start. Then I think Gillespie is a sneaky stopgap solution that makes some sense. My understanding is that Xavier Curry, he's also being stretched out as a starter as well. They're probably going to have a 6-man rotation in Jacksonville as they usually do. And I think Curry's one of the 6, but he's not on the 40-man yet. So we'll see exactly what his timeline is in terms of when they feel he's ready to come back on the 40-man, and having just squeezed him off a month ago. I don't know exactly how much they value him, but he's another guy that, of course, at the end of last season, I thought he was kind of mildly surprising, at least in terms of how sharp his command was, although his ceiling is certainly lower than everybody else we just mentioned.
Yeah. By the way, something to point out about Snelling that neither Gillespie or Mazur are. It's a lefty. So keep that in mind, too.
Ooh. So I think that's a perfect way to end it, almost exactly on the hour mark, 8:01. We're going to head out now. We have our own fantasy draft for baseball that we're going to do now in the next couple minutes. We'll show maybe our rosters on our Twitter, and you guys can vote, maybe see who has the best roster. For myself, Daniel, we have Nate, Kevin, Eli, Alex, Marcelo joining us. This is FOF Live presented by About the Fans. Remember, you could save 10% off your purchase with coupon code FOF10 at checkout. Please buy the shirts, and if you ever see us, take a picture with us in them, or if you have them, you buy it, take a picture, we'll retweet it, share it, everything you want. As always, go fish.
Have a wonderful evening.
Let's go!